Hey fellas, when it comes to games that I just have not played, there's a lot. Some might even say multiple. Here's just a few to list them off.
Metal Gear Solid, more like Metal, here's a game I haven't played. Sonic, more like somehow I haven't played this game. Fortnite, more like, yeah, right, I'll play it because I won't. Look, I grew up with the Wii and Minecraft. The first time I owned an Xbox was in 2019, and I wouldn't know what to do with a PlayStation.
What is this?
But there's one company that I did definitely grow up with, I played for hours, and that I trust substantial amounts of my money with.
Here's my wallet. Have a nice day.
Nintendo. As I mentioned, I played for hours on the Wii, the Switch, and even some aging classics from the NES that I played on an ancient and obsolete emulator called Nesticle that I don't think I'm even allowed to show the logo for.
You heard that right. I was emulating games when I was 5. Go on, arrest me.
I've played a lot of Nintendo games since then, though, and one of the reasons I'm talking to you right now is honestly just so I have an excuse to sit down and check out some of these more older games that I never got a chance to before. But one game has shockingly eluded me. Super Mario 64. Don't get me wrong, I do own it, right down to the newest release of it in the form of Mario 3D All-Stars. I've played this, don't get me wrong, but I've never really sat down and just dedicated some time to beating it. After coming from more recent games that are similar in style, like Mario Odyssey or Galaxy, this just feels foreign. It wasn't the first 3D game, is what I'm supposed to say right now, but come on, it was at least a very revolutionary one. Until today, I've never beaten the game, never even gotten more than, I don't know, 3 stars, but today I want to take some time to tackle this beast, which is widely regarded as one of the greatest games of all time. I want to win it, or at least give it a fair shot. But first, let's take a look at the story of how it came to be. This'll be quick. Mario 64 was already an idea in Shigeru Miyamoto's head before the N64 came out. He even toyed with the idea of making it an SNES game like Star Fox, but this was little more than an idea. Later, though, with the release of the fancy Nintendo 64, he actually pitched the idea and gave it a fair shot, and I'm glad he waited until then to do so because, while Star Fox is a pretty great game even today, 3D games on that system were really challenging to make and were very limited as well, so I'm glad they took the time to just do it later on. But the reason he waited to make this game wasn't because of the vastly superior technical abilities of the N64, but because of the more varied controller, allowing for more complex gameplay. And boy, they sure used it. Because there hadn't been a game like this before, it took months just to figure out how the game was going to look and handle. These levels were huge and expensive and required a ton of forethought. The first test of many of these ideas was a small gameplay demo where Mario could interact with a little bunny named Mips, and you better watch out because he escaped into the final game and we have no idea what he's going to do next. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Originally, multiplayer was planned for the game, involving split screen with Luigi, but I guess the team behind the game just had no idea how they did all of this the first time, and no idea how to do it again. Although, with the data leak in 2020, models for Luigi in the game have been found, proving the long-standing rumor and meme that Luigi was, in fact, still in the game somewhere, or at least intended for it. Guess where this was leaked? Yeah, nobody's surprised by that one, 4chan. If we ever get proof that an alien invasion is on the way, 4chan is going to be the first to know. The game was released on June 23rd, 1996 in Japan, and September 29th of the same year in America. Europe got it too, that's pretty cool. It was released on the same day the N64 was in all regions, and was one of only 3 launch titles for the system in Japan. That's right, one of the games that released alongside Mario 64 was Saikyu Hagushogi.
I wonder which one sold better.
Yeah, Mario 64 was definitely the killer app for the system. It sold almost 6 million copies in America alone, and reviews were glowing. It was praised really highly and viewed as the definitive N64 experience, and still is nowadays. While the camera system was a little unpredictable and tricky to get the hang of, a critique I'll get behind today as well, overall, reviews were raving, even considering that most people had no idea what a 3D game was. Keep in mind, this was a new concept at the time, and it would have been incredibly easy to make a very alienating game that most people wouldn't understand or get the hang of very easily. But for the most part, this newer, more complex style of game worked really well, and reviews were raving on nearly every part of it. The graphics, the sound design, the level design, and, oh yeah, the gameplay.
But I think the big question is, how does this game hold up today? I can't wait to find out.
It's me, Mario! Hello!
The game opens, and the first thing you'll notice is the soundtrack. This kind of slaps. Koji Kondo has managed to produce another incredible soundtrack, and the higher quality of audio on this system, the more opportunities that come with it, allows him to go even more crazy with it. The game opens with Princess Peach inviting Mario over to the castle for cake, but looks like Bowser's kidnapped her. Who could have seen this happening? This is unprecedented. Luigi, you were supposed to be guarding her with her life, and instead you vanish on me? Well, it looks like it's up to Mario to save the day once again. To save Princess Peach, he has to travel through portals to other worlds that are disguised as paintings in her castle. Naturally, the more power stars you get, the more levels you unlock that are hidden behind locked doors in the castle. In total, these stars you can collect number up to 120. Yeah, just like in later 3D Mario games, there's an element of collection here. If you don't put in the time to collect a bunch of power stars, not only are you a dumb, stupid, dumb baby, but you also can't unlock some areas of the game, and if you collect few enough, you won't even have enough to beat it. I personally haven't had much of a problem collecting all the stars in this game, and I enjoyed collecting most of them, unlike in Mario Odyssey, where I personally felt like I was obligated to collect each and every moon until it just ended up feeling like a chore. Here, it's more fun in my opinion. The first area you wind up in is a peaceful hub world, Peach's Castle. It's completely peaceful, unlike all previous Mario games, where you were immediately thrust into the action in a new level. This is intentional. The game realizes you probably aren't familiar with 3D controls, and gives you this big playground to get the hang of it, one that you can come back to anytime. In Super Mario Bros., the original, this Goomba is menacingly approaching you immediately, but the controls in that game are simple, so it can get away with throwing a little action at you right away. Here, it gives you a little time to get used to things, and I appreciate that. I mean, at this point, everyone knows how to control these games, but back then, that was really important. The first real level you wind up in is Bob-omb Battlefield, a war zone between the friendly pink Bob-ombs and the evil menacing black ones and surrounding a giant hill. This is war, folks. It's a serious topic, it's not pretty, and I appreciate that Nintendo is giving this topic the seriousness it deserves. Immediately there's a bunch of things you can do to beat the level and unlock some more doors of the castle. You can defeat the King Bob-omb, collect all these red coins, and more. Some of which can only be done on the second playthroughs, but there's still a lot here to do, even only on your first one. This is a good first zone, and there's a lot going on. The hardest thing here is probably just making it up to the top of the mountain to fight the king, and that is not much of a challenge. Sometimes I like to crawl around the ground just for fun. I know, I'm pretty quirky. I also sometimes like to drink juice out of a bowl. And Womp's Fortress is a nice next stage. It's pretty similar in terms of difficulty, a bit of a step up. It's kinda similar in terms of map though, get to the top of the big thing, only with a little less surrounding the big thing. For a second level, the general layout feels kinda similar, but other than that, it does introduce some fun new enemies and mechanics. This insufferable tormentor has desperately wanted to punt it off the clear. Cool Mountain can go die. I was all fun and games until this little stupid penguin started screeching at the top of his underdeveloped lungs. I and everyone else who has had the displeasure of meeting this insufferable tormentor has desperately wanted to punt it off the nearest edge before it sends me over one. That being said, this level's pretty cool. I think the rest of it is pretty good. It's alright. It's just, yeah, this mission is annoying. I know everyone likes to joke about how annoying this penguin is, but it actually, physically bothered me. After this stage, the difficulty in the game seems to go up a lot, or maybe that's just me being bad at the game. After you beat the first Bowser boss fight, the difficulty definitely goes up. Shifting Sandland is a cool level, and the Pyramid offers some fun platforming that somehow feels even fresher than the rest of the game. Although, I imagine that had I fallen down a few more times off this thing, I might have been saying right now instead that I'm preparing for arson. I managed to get through the entire thing in one shot, and yes, I do autographs. Lethal Lava Land bothers me. The second you make one slip up, you have to sit through a lengthy animation of Mario twerking on the ground, clutching his hot butt. And yes, you can quote me on that last part, don't tell me you haven't thought it too. The entire level is one big fire hazard and platformer course. And because I'm awful at jumping, I always end up tripping over myself and falling into the lava. That's not the game being too difficult or outdated, that's me being a loser. Lethal Lava Land, as I said, bothers me, but that's my own fault. One level that I think is not just as great as all the others, and one that I think I'm perfectly justified in disliking, is Dire Docks. I don't know, I never really liked water levels in general. Even in the older Mario games, they feel limited in terms of movement. You'd think 3D would make that better, and it does, but the quickly depleting oxygen you just have to deal with makes this level feel like a chore to me. I want to jump and run around, not manage oxygen and swim around slowly. I know some people like these ones, and that's okay, but they're just not my cup of tea, much like older water levels.
In other words, I hate it.
There's other levels I really like, a lot of them probably because they remind me of past games I played when I was younger. Big Boo's Haunt reminds me of the ghost houses I was first introduced to in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, ironically. Tiny Huge Island reminds me of World 4 from Super Mario Bros. 3, which was always my favorite of the bunch. It was just so wacky, and I always wanted more of it. The Bowser fights are good fun, and the platforming before you reach him is a blast. They're not impossible, which is fantastic, but definitely take a try or two. Bowser himself is actually pretty easy to beat, especially if you can grab him while he's near the edge. Doing this 3 times in the game feels somewhat uncreative, but it's by no means tedious, and kind of satisfying each time. The way you can go back to each stage multiple times and have something else to do each time is really special, and the team behind this game made great use of the space they were given. You don't need 50 levels in the game, just make the ones you do have unique, make them count, and that's what they did.
Super Mario 64 was a big success, and there's a reason for that. It sold really well, got raving reviews. It wasn't the first 3D game, but it definitely kicked the genre into gear. Many games since 1996 have taken Super Mario 64 as inspiration. So did my parents, in fact. Yep, my middle name is Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64. Does anyone know how to legally change your name? Because this is getting really hard to explain.